Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day? Just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world. I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend.
In September 2020, Christian Climate Action joined in organising a multi-faith prayer and meditation vigil as part of the Extinction Rebellion gatherings for action in Cardiff, Manchester and London. The rebellion was designed to coincide with the reopening of Parliament in London and with the presentation of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, which we hoped and still hope will push our government towards swift and urgent action in the face of the climate chaos that we see across the world. The vigil, as part of the rebellion, brought together, both on the ground in the three cities and online, people of all faiths and of none, to sit in silence, in prayer and meditation for our sacred earth.
It was important to me to go up to London to keep vigil, to keep a still space amidst all the noise of the capital, traffic, sirens, the chaos all around us, which reminded me of the chaos in our climate systems. It was important to keep a still point, to be present at the centre of power, to stand, to sit, to kneel in silence, to resist corporate evil, greed.
I kept vigil at home. I chose to sign up to do certain slots in a 24-hour, 7 days for the week vigil. I chose some daytime slots, but I also chose to do some nighttime slots at 1am. And at 1am I felt so much more alive and attentive than I did in the daytime. I don't know why, I don't understand, but I did. And I chose to be in a room in my house that I don't use a lot. And a couple of weeks later, I opened the door to go into that room, and it was almost as though I was stopped in my tracks as I looked in. And I had such a sense that this was sacred space.
So what motivates me to rebel, to pray, to keep vigil? Well, about 16 years ago, a friend asked me to cut down a tree, which he assured me was dead, in order to make room in his driveway for his bigger car. Well, I cut the tree down, and as I cut it, it began to bleed sap. I realised it wasn't dead. It was as though, for me, it was as though it was Christ bleeding on the cross. And from that moment on, I determined to do more about our bleeding, our dying planet. 10 years ago, I moved to Hillfield Friary, where we do a lot of conservation work on our 45 acres of land. We try to live simply, sustainably. For example, we have a biomass boiler, which we heat with this wood chip. But I've come to realise even that isn't enough. Because of the gathering pace of climate change, the extinction of species, the suffering of our sacred earth, I decided it was time to take to the streets to protest. But the protest too has led me to wish to pray more deeply, to pray, to rebel.
I think for me, part of my motivation started when I was at college. I was meant to be studying for a degree in music and drama, but living in a shared house, I discovered that for the first time in my life, I had a garden that was mine. There were already raspberries growing in it, and I discovered the joy of growing food. There was a little shop at the end of the road run by an old lady, and amongst other things, she would grow a variety of seeds and sell them in pots of 6 tiny plants. So I grew tomatoes, lettuces, very basic salad and flowers. And as is always the case when you grow food, you have too much of it at the same time. All the tomatoes come together. So I would share them with the sister of my landlord who lived next door to us. They were a Pakistani family. She had no English, but somehow we created a friendship that meant I handed over my surplus fruit and veg to her, and she would share with me whatever dish she was cooking for the family that night. And so a sense of connection, both with creation and with the wider world, grew from that place. And that is part of the reason why I rebel.
So what motivates me to rebel and to pray? Well, it's my deep love and passion for the natural world, for the world that God made, and He made it and saw it was all good. All of it was good. So beautiful here, isn't it? So beautiful. Recently, I went back to the hills of my childhood, and there was no longer the great swathe of bubbly, butter yellow cowslips that I grew up with. They've all been lost. And my other great worry, sorrow, grief is how climate chaos is affecting the poorest people in this world. They are already suffering, and climate justice is really important for me, to care for those people in this chaos.
Climate change is worse in less developed countries. For example, I'm from Bangladesh, and my country is suffering from different aspects of climate change. Earlier this year, there was a devastating flood in half of the country where people were underwater for like a month, and these people are the marginalized people. They couldn't grow anything, they couldn't eat properly for more than a month, because even after the flood water was down, they didn't have enough to have their foods and other necessary needs. And not only that, being a country of cheap labor, developed country tends to go there and produce things that need cheap labor, like garments. So there are lots of garments industries in my country right now, and using the cheap labor is going bigger and bigger, but the impact on our climate is getting worse and worse. Being a river-centric country, most of our river is right now polluted, so it's impacting on our drinking water source as well. So we are facing the worst part of climate change.
Being part of the vigil was a deep and special experience. In London in September, it felt as though the vigil, in some way, with its constant silent presence, was holding everything else, being the quietly beating heart of the rebellion. The September rebellion is over, but the vigil in London continues. Every Friday that Parliament is sitting from 11 till 3 on the pavement outside the Houses of Parliament. At the end of this video, there will be links in the credits to websites that will give you more info about ways in which you could become part of this, be that at home or on the streets. Or you might have your own way of joining in. But whatever you decide, we'd love to know what you do, so do let us know.